I want to welcome you to the Engineer Your Success podcast. My name is James Bryant. I am your host, and we have a absolutely rock star special guest today. Somebody who just recently released a book. It is Miss Kate. Kate, how are you doing today?
James, I am great. It's so good to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today.
Cool. So, Kate, we're going to include links to your LinkedIn profile
Sure.
and wherever social media handles you want people to go to. But can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, I always tell folks that I'm an accidental brand strategist. And basically, what that means is, well, first off, brand strategist, what that means is I work with organizations and founders to help them get their messaging down in such a way that they're able to get more of the right prospects to the right table at the right time.
Okay.
And James, I say I'm an accidental one because I had no intention of getting into this business at all.
So how did that happen? How did you kind of get into the business?
Well, it's really interesting. I was such a geek. I was such a lover of academia. I had originally intended to pursue a PhD in linguistic anthropology,
Oh, wow.
which basically is the study of how language shapes culture and how culture shapes language. Okay, so I was a nerd. I loved it. And then you know what happened? The market crashed.
Oh, yeah.
So I was about to start, graduate work. I'm like, I'm going to do this. And then I had a professor. He's like, listen, we love you. We do not know where this field of study is going to be. You should probably go and get a job, pay off some of that undergraduate debt, come back, when you've got a bit of world experience, and then you can start your graduate and your PhD studies. I was like, okay. So by the way, of course, my Italian father, I always tell people this, and it's so true. He was like, yeah, leave my house. Like, you need to get a job, you need to go. So I did.
Yeah.
I left academia, and here what happened was, to put it shortly, I fell into sales out of pure necessity. I went and took a sales job, and James, it was in that job, my first big sales job, that I recognized the power of being able to deliver a very simple and provocative brand pitch that got that person on the other end of the phone or on the other end of that email to want to have a conversation with me. And that was the beginning for me. That is what lit my career to go, there's something here of what you
Cool.
say to somebody that first 30 seconds. And how can I say this in a way that's authentic to me, gives them what they need, and we can have a win-win.
Wow. So it was a linguistic anthropology. What was it again now?
Linguistic anthropology.
That sounds like marketing to me. No.
Right. No. Yeah.
Just really understanding the different words and how you can use those words to really convey the message to connect with people and draw them in to have that conversation.
That's right.
I think that is pretty cool. So, all right, it's just a lot of different places that we can go. So, in terms of our audience, there are a
Mhm.
lot of people with an engineering background, some owners of companies, construction background. And so, have you experienced people in those areas, and what are some of the unique challenges do you think that they experience from a marketing perspective?
So yes, and okay, well, let's answer this in a couple of ways. So
Yeah.
first off, I have to tell you, when I had ended that sales job, I had gotten recruited out, James, to go work in like the marketing agency world.
Hmm.
And sure enough, a construction company recruited me to go and build brand and do marketing for them. So I
Cool.
have over 5 years, just 5 years working in construction. But of course, in that journey of working in that space, I learned a ton. And I worked not only, of course, with this general contractor, but of course, with all of the subcontracting partners,
Hmm.
A&E partners across the board, sustainability partners. And so for me, that was just an industry that I love. I love how real people are. I love that you just speak in true layman's terms. It's not overly corporate. It's just, you're doing great work for people.
Yeah.
So that was my background. And I understood that brands still applied to something as down to earth as construction. And currently, interestingly enough, I've worked with a number of construction companies, design firms, engineering firms, and I've also done brand for even lean construction
Oh, cool.
consultants. So
Cool.
interesting, just kind of facets of how different people have said, how do we improve our messaging to really help more organizations here? So that being said, let's talk about this. Engineering, construction firms, what are they facing? What are they dealing with, right?
Yeah.
Well, right now, the biggest thing that I've seen, and I think we have known this probably for the last 5 or 10 years, is that we see a shift in the leadership, don't we? We're
Yes.
seeing a huge shift in our Gen Xers and boomers transitioning.
Yes.
And as that shift has happened, and their customers have also had that happen, the need is more than ever to begin to do things a little differently. We
Yeah.
have to have a digital presence now. We have to network differently. We have to not just rely on the fact that I knew so and so as a fellow soup on a project for 30 years, but that no, we got to go out and break out new relationships. We've got to know what to say when we walk in the room. And all of
Yeah.
these things lead to the fact that we have to meet new people. And when you're in a
And,
position as an organization to meet new people, you got to have
mhm.
brand.
And what I would add too is that it's not just the shift in leadership, it's the shift in workforce,
Oh,
because
yes.
it's even recruiting the
Mm-hmm.
new people that are coming into your organization. And so that branding, that messaging has to be such, not just to attract your customers, but also
Right.
to attract your job applicants, your workforce, that you want to come work for your company because you're so great and all of the different things that you're doing. You have to be able to communicate that message to both of those audiences.
That's right. I think we also recognized, more than ever, the importance of attracting and retaining really great talent
Hmm.
does hinge on our organizations and our leaders' ability to really get down to the brass tacks of knowing, hey, expressing clearly, this is what we do, and this is how we can solve our customers' problems, and this is how our company's different.
Yeah.
And that at the end of the day is what I call a brand pitch. That's what I teach my clients. And it's simple, it's practical, and yet it often eludes us, both as organizations and as leaders, because let's be real, brand sounds like a super fluffy, nebulous marketing mumbo jumbo thing. It's not, though.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
It's
absolutely
not.
correct. It's not. It's really trying to, um, in the simplest terms, talk about what you're doing. I was
Mhm.
talking to somebody earlier today, and this person said that they uncomplicate the complicated. And that's
Mhm.
kind of how I think about, as you're talking about your brand and your messages and everything that you're saying, it's really, you want to provide a very simple solution. What I find in some clients that I work with, particularly in the engineering space, is they get so focused on the benefits and features and the type of technology that they have and how fast the processor is
Right.
and how great that it can zoom in to this, terms of pixels, in terms of images, but they never really focus on how they actually make the customer's job easier or how they solve that problem.
You know what? You're hitting the nail on the head. I've worked with hundreds of engineers. I've worked with AI technology professionals in the construction industry. Even I've got a client that they have an incredible AI technology that helps architects and engineers and construction companies see in real time and visualize against the plan. It's phenomenal. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
it's fascinating though. All of that really important stuff got buried among a pile of hundreds of features and benefits. And God bless us as engineers, but let's be real. Nobody cares about all that stuff yet
Right.
until you can tell that person, here's what I do for you. Here's the heart pain we really solve for you in your organization. And by the way, here's how our company is actually in our product or service is different and better than the rest. And that's the method I teach is like brand is not just big old storytelling. It's actually quite formulaic. And it's recognizing for yourself as a company and as a leader, this is about order of operations. Your features and benefits are super important. We would never
Yes.
say throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yes.
It's a matter of they just don't care yet until you can get to the brass tacks of the core message. It gets somebody to the point, what I always say, a brand conversation that gets them to the conversion point where they go, oh, that makes sense. So how does it work?
Yes.
Got it. Now I want to watch your video.
Yes.
Now I want to look at your charts and your graphs, right?
Yes. Because if
That's
you
what we
start,
want.
when you
Yeah.
start with all of the features and the technology, a person's looking at it for a few seconds and their attention is going someplace else. But when you start it, like what you're saying, is drawing them in, you want to tell them those things so that they're interested. Now you can look at some of the more detailed information that you have. And you're right, you don't want to throw it out, but you want to have it in the appropriate place so that in your cycle, you're able to point to that, able to show them that, and it continues to build confidence with
That's
that
right.
customer.
It's also just recognizing it from buyer psychology, pure psychology standpoint, understanding when they're ready to know
Yeah.
all that stuff. And
Yeah.
yet, guess what? Your customer actually can be ready to know all of that in like 30 seconds to a minute. The job of your brand is to just get them there. What's fascinating though is when I work with leaders and organizations, I think it's really important for all of us to recognize that we often have this fear that if I don't tell you all the incredible features and benefits and all of the amazing things, but hold on, it does this, but hold on, it does that, we fear that we're going to lose the opportunity or that they're
Yeah.
not going to buy from us.
Yeah.
Don't we?
Yeah, we do. We
And
do.
it's interesting because it points to leading from a place of desperation versus leading from a place of invitation.
Ooh, so let's talk about that a little bit more. So,
Yeah.
what is it when you're leading from a place of desperation? Define that a little bit more.
Ooh, so of course we could go all into like, all sorts of things, but I
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
want to
yeah.
talk numbers for a second. You know
Okay.
what that looks like? That looks like a company and a brand who's trying to speak to everybody and take in any customer they can. And all of a sudden they get crappy customers in the door that suck their people dry. And it was atrocious process and experience. And they lost money and their bottom line got sucked and the whole thing. That
Wow.
is leading from desperation.
Yes.
Leading from invitation is being super persnickety and particular to say, nope, I serve this group of people and I deliver this particular thing and I'm staying in my lane.
But wait. If I do that, I'm going to leave all of these other opportunities behind. Why would I do that, Kate? Why?
Why? Because you know what? I'm sorry, your bottom line just got killed because you spent time trying to run after the wrong people, convince them to buy, and then get them through a hellacious project that sucked everybody's energy and time, and everybody went home crabby, and it was terrible.
Yeah.
You're not in the business of convincing, you're in the business of converting. And so, from a pure revenue standpoint, stop trying to convince the wrong people to buy from you. You start converting the ones that actually need what you offer and have the highest probability of buying from you.
Ooh, you heard it, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it. The marketing megaphone, Kate has actually spoken. Kate, I'm gonna give you a virtual fist pump on that one. That's really good. So, do you have any interesting stories what are some funny stories that if you can talk about them, that you have in the marketing and messaging space?
I'll just tell you kind of a general theme that I see that is so funny. And I see this a lot for companies, especially in construction and engineering who have leadership roles. We've always done it this way. Oh my gosh. If you have people on your team that you're like, Bob, if you tell me that one more time, right? Karen? Okay. So if you're hearing that, you're like, oh my God, that's so my team. Okay. Listen, we've all been there. But if you are in the we've always done it this way, or you are unfortunately are working with people that say that, what often happens is they spend all this time and energy getting their message down. And you know what happens? They don't implement it because it gets stuck for months in some bureaucratic process of, well, we need everybody to weigh in on this now. So they made zero traction.
Yeah.
Or B, they implement it, and because they don't get a silver bullet in the matter of 2 days, they start changing it around. And one person has one particular opinion about one word and this word and that word, and all of a sudden they become the most crazy brand enthusiasts and they just shut their message to hell in a handbasket.
They don't trust the process that you've implemented to refine their marketing and their message. They lean back to what they've known. And
that's right.
They're not understanding that what they have been doing is what got them in the place that they are. And they wouldn't be experiencing the pain points or the heart pain or the issues that they are. If they weren't experiencing those things, they wouldn't need you, right? If they weren't, if they were doing everything and everything was kicking on cylinders, all cylinders, the profits were continuing to grow, they wouldn't need you. Mm-hmm. And then when you come in and you say, okay, here's what here is what I see, here's the message that you're saying, and I think we can go with that. They're like, that's great, but then they don't want to implement it.
That's exactly right. And I think there's this fear. It's scary. Listen, when you're talking about your brand and you're talking about changing your messaging, I understand there's a deep fear sometimes that what happens? What's the worst that could happen? And actually, that's the right question to ask. Well, hold on. What's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. Yeah. What is the
Currently not
worst that
working
can
for
happen?
you. So what's the worst that could happen if you change it? Isn't that funny though?
Yeah.
We get in our own way, don't we? We
I think,
allow these
yes.
fears to just completely lead us down this path of being paralyzed.
Yes. Yeah.
And
You're
then we wonder why
absolutely correct.
our marketing is crap and why our sales aren't improving.
Oh, my goodness. So, Kate, do you have any like suggestions or success? There's somebody listening right now and they're thinking, well, my marketing could use a little bit of refining.
Hmm.
What suggestions would you have for them?
I think that there's kind of 3 buckets that I want you to know.
Yeah.
Step 1, you need to own your expertise. You need to stand very confidently and remember that you're not in the business of convincing, you're in the business of converting. Number 2, if you believe that, you need to get super surgical on deciding the 1 or 2 or maybe 3 audiences you're supposed to serve, not the 15 or 20 you think you're supposed to speak to. Technically speaking, even though everybody can buy from you, technically speaking, not everybody will. And that is
Yeah.
okay. Your revenue generation and growth is hinged upon your ability to niche in and do a dang good job serving 1 or 2 groups. And over time, as they buy more from you, other people notice and they want in. Then you'll have the revenue to go and talk to those people and message to those people and build market share. Okay. So number 1, own your confidence. Number 2, niche in and focus on exactly who you want to talk to and know why. And then number 3, you've got to then build a message that systematically says, this is what we do, this is how we solve your problem, and this is how we're different. And I will tell you, James, ultimately what I'm getting at when I talk about building your message is that you're no longer saying, hey, these are the products and services we offer, but saying, this is the bottom line heart pain we solve for you. Oh, by the way, how we happen to do that are through these amazing products and services. When you deliver that emotive message, you've hit the nail on the head, because it's the message that when somebody sees it and they hear it, they go, oh my God, you read my mail. I want to have a conversation.
Boom. I mean, if this would be a drop the mic moment. However, I do want you to share a little bit about your recently released book, Muting the Megaphone.
Sure. So, by the way, if you'd asked me a couple of years ago if I were to write a book, I'd have said that's the worst idea. Nobody has time for that. So I had no idea this book was coming. But honestly, a lot of people were saying, can you write down the formula that you teach your clients? Can you just give me the step by step? And so honestly, this is a tiny little 100-page book, okay? But it is literally your how-to guide of how to write a brand. I walk you through exactly how to hone in on your tone of voice, absolutely select and refine and define your target audiences, determine what the heart pain is that you solve, and then how do you actually write the sentences and put it in the right formula and implement it across website, digital, print, everything. So that is what this book is. And again, it's all based on this principle of cut to the chase, stop trying to say complex stories, yammering on about features and benefits, build a brand that's going to create a conversation where somebody goes, I want to talk to you. Let's come to the table. That's the purpose of this book.
That is cool. So, Kate, the best place for people to pick up a copy of your book is where?
You can actually go right to my website. It's going to put you right on Amazon if you wanted to go that way. It's available on Amazon and across a number of platforms. But if you decide to check out my website, James will put that in the links and the notes, I'm sure. It's katedeleo.com. And by the way, check out the LinkedIn as well. If you're listening today and you follow James, feel free to follow or directly connect with me. Send me a message if you've got a question on your brand on LinkedIn. I answer those personally. Happy to connect and talk with you.
All right. Kate, I have absolutely enjoyed our time talking together. I would ask that you consider just maybe coming back on the show sometime in the future so that we can talk about marketing and branding again, because I think it's such an important topic. But so I want to thank you for your time today. And I'm going to end this podcast like I end every podcast, which is this. Many people know what to do. Fewer people know how to do it. And there is a select group of people that actually follow through, do it, and are living the life of their dreams, and in your case, impacting the world. Kate, I want to thank you for being part of that select few.
Thank you so much, James. It's been a pleasure.
It has been, the pleasure has been all mine.